Everybody, in today's video, I'm going to be walking you through how to edit your activity settings on the Garmin Instinct Crossover watch. I'm going to be using the solar version. It should work the same whether you got the solar or non-solar. The one thing I will say is I'm not sure if the activity listing is the same between the solar and non-solar version. I would assume it is, but I've never had the non-solar version, so I can't confirm that. What are we talking about when we say activity settings? I always recommend before you go do an activity, whether that's jogging, whether that's paddleball, whether that's tennis, golf, anything like that, go adjust your activity settings. Because what that determines is when I go do this activity, is it going to use GPS? Is it going to be tracking my heart rate? What are the data fields that are going to be in the activity? All of that stuff comes into play. I always think it's better to have that stuff set up. Once you've got it set up, then you're ready to go do the given activity, and that's what we're going to be looking at on the watch. I'm going to go ahead and go into the activity settings. Now, everything I'm going to be showing you is going to be on the watch. You can also do this on the Garmin Connect app on your cell phone. It's actually easier on your cell phone. Maybe I'll show you that at the end here. I'm going to go ahead and press the menu button. It's the middle button on the left-hand side of the watch. Then we're going to use either the up or down button, and we are going to go down to Activities and Applications, or Activities and Apps. Press GPS to select it. What you're going to see here are the activities that you've added onto the watch. When you first get your watch and you go to your activity listing, you basically pick and choose the activities that you want to see as options that you do. The other activities will still be on the watch. You can always go add them, but it kind of keeps them from you having to cycle through all of these things to where you can only see the ones you're interested in. In my case, the ones I've got added are walk, hunt, and golf. Choose the activity that you want to edit. I'm going to press GPS for walk, and we are going to go into the walk settings. Now, this is where I was saying I think it's important to do these settings before we actually go do the walk activity. The first thing you can change is the data screens. So when I go do a walk activity, what data screens and fields do I want to see? By default, they're giving me the timer, distance, and pace. Those might be fine, but I could click GPS and I could edit it. So instead of a 3-field layout, let's see, I want 4 fields. Or maybe I just want 1 field, 2 fields, 3 fields. Let's go with the 4-field one. So now my regular layout is 4 fields instead of 3 fields. What is field number 1? Well, I've got all of these different options I can choose from. So my timer field options would be lap time, last lap time, average lap time, elapsed time, so on and so forth. I can choose a distance field. So let's just go ahead and do distance. That's my first data field. What's going to be my second data field? Well, second data field is distance too, so I definitely want to change that. We don't need distance in 2 different fields. So maybe I'll do something like heart rate. And I'll put whatever my active heart rate is. What's field 3? Pace. That seems okay. What's field 4? My cadence. I don't want that, so I'm going to go choose something else. You're basically building the activity to show what you want it to see. Temperature is really cool. I like that this watch has done a better job of using the temperature sensor on the watch versus using weather. If you ever had the Garmin Instinct 1, you'll notice that they really didn't use temperature anywhere on the watch. On the Crossover, it's available in a lot of different options, and I really like that. So we've successfully redone the data field and the layout of our page. I've got a second data field here that I could go edit as well, just like we did before. It's showing my heart rate. Maybe I don't want that at all. I could remove that page completely. Do you want to remove it? Yes. I've got another page. It's my current time, my battery life. I don't need that when I go for a walk. I'm going to remove that as well. You're basically customizing this the way you want to. So now, when I go for a walk, I have 1 page of data screens. It's got 4 data fields, and they're the data fields that I want. I'm going to press the back button. When I go to a walk activity, do I want any alerts during the activity? If I press the GPS, I can add alerts. So for example, maybe I want a heart rate alert. If I get to easy mode for my heart rate zones, alert me. Or maybe you want to say, hey, look, if I hit my maximum heart rate zone, give me an alert. you can set anything you want. If I wanted to do a custom alert, I could say, look, if my heart rate hits, I don't know, 170 beats per minute, alert me. That's going to be what your heart rate alerts would be. I can set a pace alert. I can set a time alert. Maybe my doctor says, look, every day I need to go do a 30-minute walk. Well, I could set that and I could say, look, after 30 minutes in the walking activity, alert me. We can choose a power mode. So power mode would basically be when I go do a walk, should I go into low battery mode or should I use any power mode at all? The default is going to be normal, but I could go into low battery alert. I could auto enable low battery after so many hours. These are all just different settings. Do I want to use a metronome when I'm doing the walking activity? Do I want to set an auto lap? Do I want to auto pause, auto climb, 3D speed, 3D distance, lap key, auto scroll? Auto scroll would be if you've got multiple data pages. Does it automatically scroll through those pages so you don't have to press buttons? Or does it just keep you on that one data page? In my case, I only set up one with 4 fields, but if you had multiple ones, it could keep cycling through those different data pages. Do I need to broadcast my heart rate? Maybe you're using a third-party heart rate service and you need to broadcast the heart rate from the watch to that. You could do it. This is the big one, satellites. It says use default. Well, in my case, I'm going to go for a walk around the neighborhood. Why do I really need to use the GPS? All it's going to do is show that I'm walking around my neighborhood. I could go and I could turn this off. So now when I go do a walk activity, it won't be using my GPS. It'll save a little bit of battery life. You'll notice when I turned it off, it says I cannot basically do the alert notification. If I fall and I need to alert somebody, they can't get my exact location because I've turned off GPS. This is a feature that I don't remember having on the Instinct 1 or the Instinct 2 that I mentioned early, and that is record temperature. When you're walking, do you want the temperature to be recorded in the activity so you could look back and see how hot or cold it was? Power save timeout, background color. So when I do this activity, do I want a light background for the walking activity or do I want a dark background for the activity? It drives me nuts that they let you do this in the activity settings, but on the watch faces of the watch, they don't let you choose the white background with the dark font. You have to use the black background with the light font. I'll never understand why they decided to do that. And then none the least, the last option is if I've screwed up and I just want to go back to the way it was delivered from Garmin, I could do restore defaults and it will set the walk activity to the way it was when Garmin shipped me the watch. So that is how we did our walk settings. What's nice is your settings are per activity. So when I go do the hunt activity, maybe I want to use different settings. For example, the data screens on the hunt activity are going to be totally different than what I would want to see from the walking activity. So in this case, maybe I want something like temperature or elevation or something like that. We could set it up. The other thing is when I'm hunting, maybe it would be kind of cool to record the temperature. So I could look back at the hunt and see how cold was it that morning on that hunting activity. You would be able to do that. Every setting is per activity so that when you go do the activity, you're ready to go. Pretty simple stuff. You're going to set up your settings for the activity. Then when you want to go do an activity, you're going to press the GPS button. We're going to see our activity listings. I'm going to just choose walk. And instead of having to do the options, even though we could get to the activity options, you can see that everything is set because I've already done my activity settings. We're out doing our walk. There's my temperature. There's my pace. There's my heart rate. Everything that we just set up when we did our activity settings. Anyway, I hope that makes sense. That's how we do it on the watch. Let me stop this activity. And I'm going to discard it. Basically, I don't want to save that. As with most things on this watch, the easiest way to do it is do it on the cell phone. So let's go in and let's look at the exact same thing we just looked at on the watch, but let's look at it on the cell phone. Oh, this is my issue. I'm still in my activity page. Let me go back and get out of my activities. Now we should see some different options on the watch. Okay, I mean on the phone. You don't want to be in activity when you go to your activity settings on your phone, because it's basically thinking, it's not showing you your full activity list because it knows you're in an activity. So now that we're on our cell phone, we're in our Garmin Connect app, we're under our Garmin Instinct Crossover, we're going to go to Activities and Apps, and we're going to see the same thing we saw before. In my case, I've got walk, hunt, and golf. I could add additional things to look at the same thing we saw before. Let's see if I can cut this off. Maybe you can see it better. I can look at my data screens. These are the ones that we just set up. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then you can see my layout. If I wanted to change any of them, I could just simply choose the given one. Look at the different options I've got. If I wanted to add a screen, I could add it. Everything else is the exact same as what we saw before. So we're talking about things like recording temperature. Do we want to do that? Yes or no? Do we want to broadcast our heart rate? Yes or no? Satellites. Do we want to use GPS or not? If we do want to use GPS, do we want to use Ultra Track, GPS only, all systems, so on and so forth? A whole lot easier to do this stuff on the cell phone app versus on the watch. Once you've got it set the way you want, you're going to simply sync your watch, and all of those changes will be available on your watch. You'll be ready to go do your activities. I hope that makes sense, gives you an idea of how to customize your activity settings on your Garmin Instinct Crossover watch. Thanks for watching.